What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are back again with another disturbing Jay Slater video. I hope every single one of you are doing well. As usual, there are a few things that I want to bring to your attention in this video, so make sure we are hitting up the like button, subscribe to the channel if we are newly watching, turn your notification bells on. Just a quick reminder, we are on the road to 50,000 subscribers, so tell a friend to tell a friend. For those that haven't seen the last video, make sure you go and check it out after this one. We were talking about 3 key points. 3 key points. The first of those 3 key points was the police's investigation into the fight that broke out outside the NRG festival. Second one would have been the theft of the watch. The police report behind that. Was a police report actually filed? And then the third one would have been the identity of the person that would have had their watch stolen. But for some reason, we don't have any official confirmation about those incidences taking place. It's been brought to my attention that one of Jay's close friends, when they flew over to Tenerife in June, they told the police that they believed that the situation that took place outside the NRG festival was linked to Jay's disappearance. And then the media told us the police were examining the CCTV footage from the venue that Jay was at. Security cameras from that venue were being examined by the police. But guess what? There was no conclusion. There was nothing that come out of that examination. So what this looks like and how this looks, as far as the police are aware, whatever took place that evening outside NRG Festival had nothing to do with Jay Slater. See, that's how this looks. But the only problem we all have is all of the information that we have left and all of the evidence that we more or less have left is pointing to that situation. It was that situation that led to the death of Jay Slater. So again, as far as the police are concerned, whatever took place outside NRG Festival had nothing to do with Jay Slater. That's the reason why they never disclosed any information regarding their investigation into that fight, into the stealing of that watch. There was no need for that information to be released because from the Spanish police's perspective, that incident has got nothing to do with Jay Slater. What the massive problem is, ladies and gentlemen, is that that situation has got something to do with Jay Slater. We can't verify the fight. We can't verify the person who lost their Rolex. We can't verify if that person got their Rolex back. That incident is a totally separate incident. That's how they're looking at it. That's how they're treating it. See, the truth is, if you link that incident to the Jay Slater case, it gives motive and therefore leads police to have to investigate into what happened that night. But if they don't link the two and they keep them as 2 separate cases, then it's easy for one of those cases, the stealing of the Rolex, to get brushed under the carpet, make it look like it never happened. But as we know, ladies and gentlemen, we're 10 months deep into this case. That gives us 10 months of experience, 10 months of knowledge, 10 months of understanding everything that's happened within this Jay Slater case. All of the conspiracies, all of the theories, everyone's opinion. We've looked at all of the evidence, all of the hiccups, all of the slip-ups, all of the contradictions, all of the stories. Like, we've literally looked at everything there is to look at, which means when we go back and look at footage from maybe 9 months ago, we see that footage totally differently to how we saw it 9 months ago. As an example, Debbie Duncan's interview with The Sun. Going back to that interview, which I did over this last weekend, I felt so differently about that interview to how I did back in August when she did it. There was a few points that I was making when I reacted to the interview back then, 9 months ago, like Jay not being a big drinker. She mentions that Jay wasn't really a big drinker. Now, of course, we're honing in on this Rolex situation. We believe this is linked to the death of Jay Slater. And in that Debbie interview, I remember she said on the Sunday morning, Jay and Brad were chilling in the apartment. Now that makes sense and connects with the video that we saw of Jay wearing the watch with Brad on the balcony puffing away on the cigarette. It's funny because after watching Debbie's interview and her confirming that Jay and Brad would have been chilling in the apartment that morning, Jay was wearing the same t-shirt he was wearing later on in the NRG festival. But Brad was wearing a different outfit. The t-shirt that Brad was wearing when he was puffing on that cigarette on the balcony isn't the same t-shirt he was wearing when at the event with Jay and Brandon. And that right there made me think, we've got Jay on camera wearing this watch. This watch is allegedly stolen. Brad's in the background puffing on the cigarette. He's the only one that changes his clothes, but Jay wears the same clothes. Now, if Jay knows that he's done something wrong, maybe that morning or the night before, surely Jay wouldn't be wearing the same clothes. Now, one of the main points that I wanted to bring to your attention in this video is Brad's involvement. We haven't really spoken about Brad for quite some time. We haven't really spoken about Brad's mum for quite some time. Clear, in my opinion, that Brad had some sort of involvement in whatever happened with Jay that evening, whether it's covering up the story or whether it's being directly involved leading up to whatever happened to Jay. Brad was directly or indirectly involved. And I think Rachel also knows that, hence why she's been doing a lot of covering up and trying to control the online narrative to ensure that her son, Brad, doesn't get implicated in anything that could have potentially happened to Jay. Bearing in mind, I'm a personal believer, as an example, of information like the Snapchat pictures being fabricated. If there has been some sort of fabrication and people are aware of material being fabricated within this case, then again, that would give them more reason to protect their son. I really want to talk about Brad's involvement because, for one, if we think about what we know right now, Mark Williams Thomas was hitting nails on the head from early. Now, I know there's a number of content creators that don't necessarily agree with Mark Williams Thomas, but the truth is Mark Williams Thomas had the correct information from the get-go. Not only was Mark Williams Thomas used, Mark Williams Thomas was shut down. The authorities in Spain more or less told Mark Williams Thomas to stop snooping. They wasn't willing to work with Mark Williams Thomas. They wasn't willing to give him access to no information. It's so weird how the Spanish authorities are not willing to give someone like Mark Williams Thomas access to information that could potentially help the case, but they're willing to give Sluggy the side chick access to their resources and their systems and other technology that he allegedly claims he had access to. Yeah, sure thing. What doesn't make any sense to me is that Brad was in conversation with someone via Facebook or Instagram or whatever it was, and he was telling that person that Mark Williams Thomas, he basically threw Mark Williams Thomas under the bus by saying that Mark Williams Thomas is acting like he's helping, but he isn't doing anything. I don't get is why Brad would have said something along those lines if Mark Williams Thomas had the genuine information. If Mark Williams Thomas knew that a fight had broke out, that a watch had been stolen, how and why would Brad at this point not be working with Mark Williams Thomas, helping him understand what truly happened at that point? Why Jay went to the Airbnb if Jay would have stolen a watch. Like, I'm just not getting why Brad isn't supporting Mark Williams Thomas at that point, bearing in mind everything that Mark Williams Thomas is working with is facts. He's working with facts. The only thing he's clearly struggling to understand is why Jay would have left the Airbnb and walked the wrong way. He might have his own theory into that. I'm pretty sure he was going to tell us that he believes he knows why Jay left the Airbnb in the manner that he did. At this point, you've got to think that Mark Williams Thomas would have been of belief that Jay would have been involved in whatever happened outside the NRG festival. He got his hands on this watch. He would have got into the car with Ayub and whoever to go off and sell it. And then after being there for a short space of time, 40 to 50 minutes, maybe an hour, he decides that he wants to leave in a hurry and he goes the wrong way, which ultimately leads to him falling off a cliff and dying. Again, I'm just not getting my head around how Brad would have supported Mark Williams Thomas. What information could Brad have given to Mark Williams Thomas? What did Brad say about his own involvement? With the fact that Mark Williams Thomas said that him and his team wasn't able to verify the watch or the fight that basically broke out, to me, it seems like Brad never mentioned anything about that. And the police covered that information up and wasn't willing to talk to Mark Williams Thomas about it. Little Miss Vodka, a content creator on TikTok who was heavily involved in the Jay SLATER case from the very, very beginning, he was once upon a time in contact with Brad via DMs trying to find out what happened. Now, a lot of what she was saying in the earlier days was bang on the money. In fact, some people believe that her theory was actually used as a part of the narrative. In fact, I brought that to your attention months ago, and I was one of the people that believed her theory about where Jay's body potentially could have been is exactly where Chris Tenerife and his side chick claims they would have found the body. Now, Little Miss Vodka has dropped another video where she talks about the messages that she had between her and Brad. Let's check this out.
Brad deleted all of his messages with me. Brad deleted all of his messages with me. Brad deleted all of his messages with me. That's the one thing I found very weird in the whole Jay SLATER case, because obviously a lot of people...
Why would he delete all of the messages? That doesn't make any sense.
Will know me from covering the whole case when it was happening. At the time, I was speaking with Brad in the DMs. He then didn't want me to release the messages, which I found weird. But yeah, he deleted them all. Not deleted them. I think he deleted the account. I don't know. The messages are just not there.
See, she was about to say, I don't know. I think he might have deleted the account. And that's a really, really good point she's making there. Because one thing I realized about Brad earlier on in the case, when they found Jay's body, the Instagram account that he used was never used prior to him using it to publish a picture of him and Jay. Published that picture and he never used that account again. So it made me think, why would you fake resting your friend in peace? It literally seemed like he had made the account just to publish the picture of him and Jay to say, rest in peace, brother, whatever else he said in that message. And then he never used the account again.
The weirdest thing that stood out to me was when Brad said to me that he said that he was invited on the holiday as a last minute thing. He was invited on the holiday as a last minute thing, and he told me that Lucy and Jay were closer friends than he was with Lucy. So he was like, Lucy's closer with Jay than I am.
So he's confirming that Lucy and Jay are closer than him and Lucy are. And that actually makes sense, because when I went back to listen to Debbie's interview, she basically says that Lucy knew what type of bonds her and Jay had, which means to a degree, Lucy had to have been close to the family. I've always said that Lucy's protecting one person, and because she's protecting that one person, she has to then protect people like Ayub, who claims they're mates with that one person. And not only does the court document prove that Lucy was lying, but we knew Lucy was lying from the get-go, because Ayub threw Lucy under the bus, and Lucy never rectified that. Lucy and Brandon on a Bernie lot, and Ayub claims that he's good mates with Brandon, then it never made sense to me how Lucy never knew who Ayub was. It means she always knew who Ayub was. Lucy didn't put her face on camera, not because her mum told her not to. Lucy didn't put her face on camera because she knew she was involved in a lie. She knew she was involved in a cover-up. It was a lie. It wasn't genuine. The same with Ophelia. Ophelia didn't put her face on camera when she done her video because she knew it was a lie. It wasn't genuine. It was a fraudulent statement that she was giving. Brad was going to do exactly what Brandon done and stay silent. And I've always been adamant on that.
He was invited late to the holiday, but then somebody showed me he was on a Facebook group asking for, what was he asking for? I'm trying to jog my memory. He was asking for tickets to something, but people were saying that they showed me the screenshot and he was in that group asking for tickets like, what, 6 months to a year before actually flying out? So then I thought to myself, well, you said
saying that was tickets for the NRG festival then? Because if that is, then clearly Brad's been lying, isn't it?
You were invited last minute, but here you are on a group asking for tickets to, was it that place they went to, festival or something? I can't remember. But yeah, all the messages are gone. All the messages are gone. Very interesting. And he was the one that actually reached out to me, basically saying, oh, you don't know anything, and, you know, stop making videos and all this shit. But yeah.
Why would he say that? Why would he say you don't know anything, stop making videos? You got to think, if Jay just wandered off and he was genuinely just missing, why would people like Brad be so paro? Why would they be so paro to the point where they'll have to message content creators like Little Miss Vodka and tell them to stop making videos because you know nothing? But for the simple fact that Brad's gone out of his way to message Little Miss Vodka and then later delete all those messages, it's pretty questionable. You got to think, that's at a point in time where not everyone's got their story straight. They're still trying to connect and glue together the official narrative. In fact, there's another video that I'm going to do where Mama D has an interesting theory. And I'm going to bring that to your attention in the next video. It's really interested in what Little Miss Vodka said there about Brad, him deleting the messages, him reaching out to her, accusing her of not knowing what she's talking about, asking her to stop making videos. You've also got Brad messaging other people, more or less telling them that Mark Williams Thomas doesn't know what he's talking about. It literally is extremely weird, and clearly Brad knows so much more than he is telling. But we can see it right there, ladies and gentlemen. There's a number of things that are not adding up, not making any sense whatsoever. The fight breaking out, the watch being stolen, the fact that the police investigated it and never come to a conclusion, the fact that the police confirmed that they were looking at the CCTV footage from the venue and still didn't come to a conclusion. Brad somehow splitting up from Jay at that point, and Jay going off to the mountains, but halfway there, Jay tells the world that he's just stolen a watch and he's on his way to sell it for 10 quid. If Brad was to speak up and tell the truth about whatever he was involved in leading up to Jay getting into the car with Ayub and Rocky, in this case would be closer to getting solved. If Brandon was to come forward and talk about his involvement in what happened leading up to Jay getting in that car with Ayub and Rocky, then this case would be closer to getting solved. I'm not even going to say that the police are incompetent. I believe the police have covered this up for the simple fact that they did not want to lead an investigation, a murder investigation. They just wasn't bothered in investigating it because they knew it involved criminal activity. All right, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I'll bring this video to you because what Little Miss Vodka said was extremely interesting. Doesn't make any sense how Brad wasn't more supportive over Mark Williams Thomas in the investigation he was doing, especially when Brad knew the truth. Brad knew that a watch had been stolen. Brad knew that Jay got into a car. Brad knew that Jay posted this picture saying that he's en route to go and sell this watch for 10 quid. Brad knew all of that, but he had the audacity to tell people on Facebook that Mark Williams Thomas is just acting like he's helping, but he ain't doing nothing. A few months ago, I confidently believed that Jay had been in the mountains the whole entire time. But there's just something telling me that I could be wrong. And maybe this picture of Jay in the back of the car with a message across the front of it could give us the answers. It could help us understand that Jay was already dead. And they knew Jay was already dead. Anyway, guys, I need to know exactly what you are thinking. Make sure you leave all your comments down below. There's going to be plenty more Jay SLATER content, plenty more other content dropping on the channel. So make sure you don't go anywhere. Subscribe to the channel if we are newly watching. Turn your notification bells on so you don't miss out on future videos. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.